You speak a little bit about in one of your pieces on your site, Nvidia, and how this bubble could burst if their growth begins to slow. You point out there's this thing called like the Magnificent Seven, basically these big seven companies that make up so much of the U.S. stock market's value. And you posit that Nvidia is the weakest of these seven at this point. Can you explain why that's the case and what these weaknesses are?
So the funny thing is that Nvidia is the only company I think that's making any real profit from this. They are doing so well to the point that the market has a fundamentally unhealthy relationship with them.
Yep.
Nvidia's revenue, 88% of it comes from data center revenue, which is selling these GPUs and the associated bits with them. Of that revenue, around 42% of it comes from six other companies, really mostly four: Amazon, Google, Microsoft, and Meta. In all four of those cases, they're making bugger all revenue. But in this case, the market has come to expect Nvidia to grow anything from 70 to 150% every single year, year over year, every quarter. They must grow that much. And then you look at it right now, and they slowed to a ridiculously high, but not high enough, 55%, I think it was, year over year. It's unsustainable. There is no way that Nvidia is just going to be able to go, okay, we'll sell 70 billion, then 100 billion, then 150 billion dollars worth of GPUs. And if you're worried, you should be more worried, because that's actually what needs to happen to keep this rally going, because
And
nobody's
and
making
and
any real money.
yeah, and I think just for people that don't know, can you explain Nvidia's place in the market and why they have it cornered?
Oh
Just
yeah.
even like spelling it out very uh, simply, just because like what GPUs are and
Hmm.
what their product is, and even if you
Absolutely.
don't mind explaining like Taiwan's role in also all of this.
So Taiwan's role will be with TSMC, which is the basically the chip manufacturer de jour. They do everything. TSMC does way more than GPUs. They do more than this. Nvidia makes a GPU, a graphics processing unit, but the ones that they sell a lot of are these AI GPUs, and they're not kind of like the ones you put in a computer. They're much bigger. I think you put 72 of them in a rack. You need these massive cooling rigs and servers to make them run. And they run something called CUDA, C-U-D-A. Now, this language is exclusive to NVIDIA GPUs and is functionally the only way to run generative AI. There are other examples, but no one else can scale like NVIDIA, and indeed, no one can really run CUDA. So you either have to make a large language model specifically for another language and another GPU, which is incredibly hard to do. China's trying to do this right now. Or you can just buy from NVIDIA, which is what everyone's doing. The problem is these GPUs are insanely expensive. We're talking 50,000 to 70,000 a piece, and you need to buy 72 of them each rack, and you need to buy a lot of racks. And so you're in this situation where there's this massive expenditure, this insane amount of money you're spending, and then you install them, and they immediately start losing you money. And based on SemiAnalysis's analysis, they cost about $2 an hour to run, which may not seem too bad when you're making, I don't know, $3 an hour, but that's if you're at 80% or higher utilization, as in like it's being used for 80% of the time. Most of them are not, because the demand is not there for generative AI services. And where it is available, well, it's with Microsoft and OpenAI, and all of that business is being taken. So I believe that most people that are actually installing these GPUs at scale are losing tons of money. And their customers, when they get these generative AI services, are going, why do I care? And I believe most of OpenAI's actual existence within the market is not legitimate. It's based on a 3-year-long marketing campaign by a tech and business media that's lost the plot, and a society and markets that needed a new growth pig. They needed a new thing to point
Yes.
at and say, this is the future. Except
And big
this
tech was
isn't.
behind it too, right? Like, I mean, they're
Oh, yeah.
deeply invested. And another thing that you write in your piece about what could happen if the bubble bursts is these big tech companies abandoning some of this AI stuff. Can you speak a little bit about that and why that could be on the horizon?
So all of these companies, these big tech companies, have been spending, Microsoft's spending $80 billion of capital expenditures this year, Amazon $105 billion of capital expenditures. The market quite liked this when the market had the brains of babies and went, ooh, AI is everywhere. I've heard AI mentioned a few times. I like that. Number go up. Here's the thing. Now that the market is saying, wait, is there any actual return on this investment? They're starting to say, well, is your revenue going to keep growing? Because this whole time, and this is where the business media really screwed up, every time these companies saw revenue growth, the media would say, and that proves that AI is working. Now, what's missing from all of these earnings is any actual explanation of how much money they're making from AI, because they're not making any. Well, that's not true. Microsoft's making $13 billion, and they stopped reporting their AI revenue in January for some reason, projected to make $13 billion this year. $10 billion of that is from OpenAI's compute, which is sold at cost on an already money-losing thing. Meta expecting to make $3 billion. An analyst predicts that Amazon will make $5 billion from AI. This is not a lot of money for companies that make over $100 billion a year. Microsoft Azure made, I think, 70-something billion in the last year and all that. This is chump change. And as you have shown, adoption is going down. The only reason we're seeing this spike right now is honestly, it's not quite Enron, but it smells a little bit about it. The Oracle saying, yeah, we got $300 billion of revenue coming May. It's going to be amazing. Yeah, it's from one company that loses billions of dollars a year, that doesn't have any money right now and needs to convert to a for-profit. But yes, everyone go nuts. It's going to be great. I just hate it because in the end, retail investors, so regular people that are investing with this, who have been lied to, who believe people in the media, who believe senior officials that say AI is so powerful, that don't do their own research, that are not actually being given the full story, are going to invest heavily in Nvidia, heavily in Oracle, and get their asses kicked when this falls apart.
And Nvidia, like, just in terms of its lack of sustainability, I mean, there are going to be new technologies and new different like GPUs that might be more efficient. Like,
maybe,
I mean,
but the thing is, even whether there is or there isn't, Nvidia will survive this. None of these big tech companies are dying, which is why, by the way, there will be no government bailout. There's nothing to bail out. None of these companies are going to die. Oracle, however, is actually in systemic problems because they are taking on $38 billion of debt, I think, just to complete one part of the compute to serve OpenAI, a company that doesn't have the money. Right. Nvidia generally, because of that coding language CUDA, and it's a coding language and series of libraries and such to run compute on GPUs, they started working on that over a decade ago. Everyone has been trying to work that out and crack that nut. I don't think anyone's going to do it, but I don't think it really matters because ultimately this boom has come from building capacity for a revolution that never even started arriving. And I think everyone, the sources of information that people rely on, everyone's been let down.
Well, if people read your newsletter on Ghost, Where's Your Ed At, you'll not be kept in the dark. So I really appreciate your work on this, Ed. Obviously, we'll put a link to your newsletter, Where's Your Ed At, in the description below, wherever people are listening to or watching this. Ed Zitron, thanks so much for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Of course.
Hey folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.